often say that we trust in God. And we say it quickly, almost automatically. I trust. Everything is in God's hands. God is in control. But if we're honest, the truth is that deep down, we don't always feel that way. Because there are moments, and I think we've all been there, when you simply don't know what to do. You don't know whether to stay at that job or take the risk to change. You don't know whether to keep fighting for a relationship that no longer adds to your life or to painfully accept that maybe it's time to let go. You don't know whether to move, to start something new, to say yes or to say no. And we're not talking about small decisions. These are tough decisions. The kind that keep spinning around in your head. Decisions that keep you up at night. Decisions where every option seems to come with a cost. And here something very human happens, something I see all the time. You say you trust, but deep down you're still uneasy. You pray, but the fear doesn't go away. You look for signs, hoping something will tell you what to do, and you end up thinking and overthinking everything. And that's when your mind won't stop. The questions start. What if I make a mistake? What if I lose something important? What if I regret it later? Uncertainty. It doesn't mean a lack of faith, it means you're human. And the real question isn't whether you'll feel uncertain. The question is, from where will you decide when you don't have all the answers? That's why today I want to talk to you about trust. Not when everything is figured out, but in those moments when you can't see the whole path and still have to move forward. When we're faced with important decisions, uncertainty doesn't show up because we lack faith. It appears because we don't have total control. And that obviously makes us uncomfortable. Our mind works this way. It needs to feel a certain level of security to make decisions. When it doesn't have that, the body goes on alert. We start overthinking, constantly going around in circles, procrastinating, or we make a very hasty choice just to stop feeling that internal tension. That's why many people say, I'm simply not ready to make any final decisions yet. But the truth is that not deciding is actually a significant decision in itself. And many times, it doesn't come from confidence, but from fear. And this is where a very common confusion usually appears. We think that trusting in God means not having doubts, not being afraid, not asking ourselves questions. But the Bible never presents faith that way. Trusting in God doesn't mean not feeling uncertainty. It means learning to keep moving forward without letting that uncertainty be the one making decisions for you. There's a very well-known verse that you've probably heard more than once, but it's worth taking another look at it, with a bit more calm. It's in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. It says this, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding." This doesn't mean that God is telling you not to think, not to analyze, not to stop and evaluate anything. On the contrary, the book of Proverbs invites us time and again to think with wisdom, to reflect, and to seek counsel. To put it in another way, this verse is telling us a truth that is actually very simple. Don't make decisions on your own, relying entirely upon your own limited understanding. Because when uncertainty arises, we often let fear take complete control of our hearts. And fear is never a good advisor. And the same passage goes on to say something else. It says this, "Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight." And notice this, it doesn't promise total clarity, it promises that God will be with you as you walk. Trusting in God isn't saying, "God, tell me everything before I take a step." It's being able to say, "God, I walk with you as I make my decisions." In counseling, we see it all the time. People make better decisions when they don't feel alone in the face of difficult choices. And that's exactly what faith offers, a relationship that supports you even when there are no certainties. Trusting in God doesn't mean that uncertainty will disappear, but rather that it stops being what governs your decisions. Throughout the Bible, faith is never presented as a static state where everything is perfectly clear, but rather as a journey where steadily moving forward in the correct direction is far more important than possessing all of the answers. Many times, we don't move forward not because God hasn't spoken to us, but because we're waiting to have everything clear. And God never promised to give us that. Psalm 37 talks about this in a very simple and very wise way. It says this. This text doesn't say, understand your whole path. It says, entrust it. In the Bible, to entrust is not to resign yourself, nor is it to do nothing. It is to place the weight of the journey in God's hands while you keep walking. The psalm doesn't promise that God will explain every step to you. It promises that God is present and at work while you are walking. And that makes all the difference. Trusting in God is not acting without thinking. It means using reason, but not to let it control everything. Think, evaluate, seek advice, and still accept that not everything depends on us. That is the difference between being prudent and being self-sufficient. Trusting in God doesn't mean we stop being responsible. It means living out that responsibility accompanied by Him. People who wait to be 100% sure before making a decision are often not being prudent. Deep down, they are avoiding the discomfort that comes with deciding. And avoiding risk is not always wisdom. Sometimes what looks like prudence is actually fear. Truly trusting doesn't mean fear disappears. It's learning to make decisions even when fear is present. Trusting in God, then, is not about living in constant expectation of extraordinary signs. It is steadfastly moving forward faithfully in what you already know is right, and trusting that He is doing His part as you faithfully walk. In the midst of uncertainty, something very common happens. Many of us say, I want to know what God wants. But if we're honest, in practice, many times we do something else. We want God to confirm what we've already decided. And that's when the signs start to appear. Not biblical signs, but signs we ourselves start to create. Things like these. If they call me today, it's God. If that person writes to me, it's a sign. If I hear that word, it's God speaking to me. If such and such happens, then I'll know what to do. Does that sound familiar? And be careful with this. It's not so bad to want direction. The problem is making God confirm what we've already decided. And if we're honest, we're not really trusting at that point. We're just trying to calm ourselves quickly because uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. Here it's important to be careful because trusting God isn't about putting Him to the test so that He acts according to our conditions. Faith doesn't need constant proof. It works from obedience to what God has already revealed. God doesn't play with signs to validate our whims. He doesn't let Himself be manipulated by signs that we fabricate ourselves. Other times we open the Bible, but not to listen, rather to back up what we've already decided. We read looking for a phrase that fits our plan. We ignore the context, we ignore the full message, and we take a word to justify a previous desire. That's not discernment either. That's using the scriptures as an endorsement of our own will. That happens today more than we think. People who are facing big decisions, like leaving the country or staying, and they look for signs. If my application is approved, it's from God. If a door opens, it's a sign. But rarely do they stop to ask themselves, am I being faithful to my responsibilities today? Am I discerning? Or do I just want to escape? Is this about purpose or just about running away from discomfort? The same thing happens with relationships. People who want to leave a relationship and look for texts to feel at peace with that decision. Or the other way around, people who don't want to let go of something that's already hurting them and look for spiritual phrases to justify it. It happens with work too. If they offer me more money, it's from God. If I feel uncomfortable here, it's a sign. But not all discomfort comes from God. And not every opportunity means it's His will. The Bible never presents God's will as something impulsive or magical. It presents it as something that is discerned over time, with clear principles, with a formed character, with wise counsel, and an honest relationship with God. That's why trusting when there's uncertainty isn't about constantly looking for signs, but about learning to distinguish between my own voice, my fear, and God's voice. And that completely alters the way you approach making your decisions. Maybe today you don't have all the clarity you wish you had. Maybe you still don't know whether to stay or leave, whether to keep insisting, or if it's time to let go. And that's okay, really. The Bible never promised absolute certainty for every important decision. What it does promise is enough wisdom to take the next step. And when we talk about that wisdom, the Bible puts it this clearly in James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all generously and without any reproach, and it will be given to them. Wisdom is not having all the answers. Wisdom is learning to walk even when you don't have everything figured out, but trusting in God. And here the text adds something beautiful. God gives without reproach. That means God doesn't shame you for asking, doesn't look down on you for doubting, and doesn't punish you for not knowing exactly what to do. Maybe today the calling is not. That is to say, God, tell me exactly what to do. Maybe the calling is something simpler and more honest. God, teach me to decide with you. Not out of fear, not out of pressure, not from the anxiety of making a mistake, but from a living relationship where I trust even if I don't have all the answers and move forward even if the path isn't completely clear yet. Because when you truly trust, you no longer need to control the future, you just need to know whose hands you're in. And when you trust like that, uncertainty stops ruling your life. And that's what I wish for you today. May God bless you.